Now, to discuss these latest developments with North Korea, we have with us Professor Kim Hyun-wook from the Korea National Diplomatic Academy. Professor Kim, it's good to have you with us today.
Thank you very much.
It looks like the repatriation of the remains of American soldiers killed in the Korean War will take place this week. Can you briefly explain for our viewers what the history behind the returning of the remains of the U.S. soldiers and how significant a step this could be for North Korea and U.S. relations right now?
Yes, the repatriation of the remains of American soldiers have begun between two countries even during the Cold War period. I think one of the purposes of North Korea at the time was to receive some expenses from the United States in return for the repatriation of American soldiers' remains. But I think it was 1993 that two countries finally, reached an agreement about the repatriation issues. After which I think things have, moved very quickly and very, frequently. Of course, North Korea, requested some expenses and compensation from the United States about these issues. But I think it was 2012 that, North Korea shot a rocket and that made this issue stopped. And ever since that, there has been no repatriation issues between two countries. So I think this is for about in 6 years, another repatriation is going on now. I think this is very important in that there have been 4 agendas in the joint statement of the summit meeting, and one of the agenda was about the repatriation of American soldiers' remains. And finally, this is now moving quickly and implemented, and I think this would be a very important trigger and momentum for further implementations of exchanges between two countries about, denuclearization and security guarantee for North Korea.
As you said, the remains, returning of the remains was one of the key pledges that was made in the agreement between Donald Trump and Kim Jong-un in Singapore earlier this month. South Korea and the U.S. have been taking their own steps to improve relations with North Korea by suspending military drills for the time being and other actions they've been doing as well. What do you make for this like-for-like, action-by-action way of working with North Korea? Do you think it will ultimately lead towards a positive result, perhaps towards the denuclearization? Is this the first step? Can we see it that way?
Well, I think this is a very important step. This is very big incentive from the United States to bring North Korea into a working level talk for denuclearization. Of course, I think there have been some slight change from the U.S. attitude towards North Korea. Before, the United States and even President Moon mentioned that there would be no exchange of stop of joint military exercise, which is legal measures, in return for the stop of nuclear and missile test of North Korea, which is illegal things. So, there was very clear, attitude and policies of the U.S. and South Korea. But I think, these kind of things, North Korea have to denuclearize first, then there will be all the measures given to North Korea afterwards. That was the U.S. positions. But the North Korean position was to do things for tit-for-tat, like for like, action for action. And these two different approaches were not mingled even right before the summit meeting. But now what the U.S. Trump government is doing is like accepting, pretty much of what North Korea has been arguing, which is action for action. Okay, now the North Korea has stopped nuclear test and about to stop, missile test. Okay, that's good. We're going to stop the joint military exercises time. And now it's your turn, maybe North Korea in return now doing some repatriation of remains issues. I think this kind of thing is something that, kind of leans towards more on the North Korean approaches rather than the U.S. approaches that it originally have argued before.
I mean, North Korea will eventually have to make some sort of action towards denuclearization as well, wouldn't they? I mean, North Korean state media have said themselves that if the U.S. takes some more confidence-building measures, then Pyongyang will respond in kind. What kind of things can North Korea do? What do they want to do? And how likely do you think it will be?
Yeah, I think that's some slight but important point that you have, mentioned. Now the U.S. thinks that, okay, we did something important. Now it's your turn, North Korea. You have to do something. You have to do something about the implementation of denuclearization. You have to right away, accept our, offers and proposals for the working level talk and discussions about the denuclearization issues. But North Korea says that, okay, we are not doing the repatriation of remains of American soldiers. This is very important confidence building measures. And now it's the U.S. turn to do something for North Korea. So there are some, different approaches, wanting the other part to do something for them. I think, what North Korea wants is, in return for the repatriation measures, maybe North Korea wants the U.S. to do something about the, guarantee of North Korean regime security. For example, economic support for North Korea, maybe some kinds of initial steps for the normalization of two countries, something like that. So I think these kinds of, parallel argument, wanting the other part to do something for them, I think this could be some kinds of, initial hurdle for the further talk and implementation of North Korean denuclearization.
I mean, perhaps we need to be patient. I mean, it will take time for these things to happen. But I guess one of the reasons why we have become impatient is because Trump promised after the summit that the week after that there would be follow-up talks. But right now, it doesn't seem to be happening. Why do you think that is?
Well, many conjectures about that. Maybe North Korea does not want to denuclearize itself. Maybe just want to drag some time, very slow down the process, does not want to expedite the denuclearization process. And also maybe they're not ready. North Korea is not ready to talk with the United States. They are not ready for their, organizing teams for negotiations. Maybe the U.S. might not be ready yet, but, they have a Secretary of State Pompeo, but maybe North Korean counterpart, I'm not sure who's going to be the counterpart. I'm not sure, maybe Secretary of Foreign Ministry in North Korea might be the counterpart. I don't know, but the working level negotiation team is not ready for the negotiation. Or they're not ready for roadmap yet. Maybe what U.S. wants from the North Korean side is that, okay, you have to do something and bring the United States the roadmap of denuclearization that you are willing to implement in the future. But maybe North Korea is not ready for it. And especially they have done summit meeting with Xi Jinping. And after talks with Xi Jinping, maybe Kim Jong-un is thinking of some different strategic calculations before it comes out to talk with the United States. So maybe a lot of conjectures, but I think North Korea does not want to come and talk and implement denuclearization very quickly without any rewards from the United States.
So you don't think it might just be a timing thing? For example, there are reports that Mike Pompeo is waiting for the repatriation of the remains, that for that he will go to North Korea to bring back the remains of the US soldiers killed in the Korean War, but at the same time have these discussions about denuclearization. So at the same time that they have the optics of the remains were coming home. I mean, what do you think of that kind of speculation?
Yes, that's possible, I think. But one thing I want to take note is that Pompeo would not go to Pyongyang to talk and discuss. If he goes to Pyongyang, majority of deal making would be ready. I don't think Pompeo is the one that talks in the working level. I think Sung Kim and Choi Sun-hee and some other people in the working level, I think they might be continuously talking right now. And if some kinds of level of talks have been settled down, I think based upon that kinds of principle agreement that has been made between two countries, Pompeo would go to Pyongyang and make a final decisions. So maybe it would be good argument that, okay, about the repatriation of remains of American soldiers, Pompeo would do that simultaneously and go to Pyongyang together and talk about the implementations of denuclearization. But important thing is Pompeo ready to go to Pyongyang? Is detailed working level discussion already done before he's going to Pyongyang? I think that's the key issue we have to think about.
President Trump seems to be going rather back and forth in his approach to North Korea. I mean, one day he's talking about the enormous economic potential that North Korea can have if it denuclearizes. But then last Friday, he extended sanctions on North Korea for another year. What should we make of his actions?
Yes, he postponed he extended the sanctions measures one more year. I think he is thinking about what is the opinion in the United States. Of course, public opinion in the United States is getting better and better. Slightly more than 50% is approving Donald Trump's policies towards North Korea, denuclearizing North Korea, talks with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. But a lot of majority of elites in Washington, D.C. is negative about what Trump is doing. Very skeptical about denuclearization, skeptical about Donald Trump's diplomacy towards North Korea. So I think he has to show to the audience in the United States that, okay, he's going to the talk, but at the same time, he's not doing anything negative to the sanctions that have imposed on North Korea. So I think these kinds of dual approach to North Korea is something that kind of his styles, negotiation styles to deal with Kim Jong-un.
There's some criticism that North Korea so far hasn't shown any real steps towards denuclearization, but then the US and South Korea as well are also giving quite a lot to North Korea. For example, right now there's a whole series of inter-Korean talks happening right now about rail and road and afforestation plans and all that. What do you say to that criticism that say pledges are being made and carried out, but not anything particularly groundbreaking from the North Korea is being made?
Yes, you're right. The South Korean government is eager to improve relationship with North Korea. But because of sanctions by UN Security Resolution, the exchanges between North and South Korea is very much limited to the non-economic and non-monetary issues. Maybe we are talking about the railway issues, reconnecting the North Korean, South Korean railways issues, something like that. I'm not sure if that really, touches upon the monetary issues. Maybe not. We are not supporting economically North Korea. It's something that's, reconnecting railways between North and South Korea. But one thing important is that we have to balance the speed of two processes, denuclearization processes and North-South Korea detente processes. Denuclearization is a very fundamental issue. If it's broken, everything else is broken. So we have to balance these two processes so that it would go all together safely in the future.
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, I think maybe we need to be patient as well about how to deal with North Korea because it's been so long coming for now. Anyway, thank you for coming in today for us. That's all we have time for.
Okay, thank you very much.